everyone, and welcome back to the Next Decision podcast. Today, we're talking to someone that has been called the king of B2B data, Santosh Sharan. How's it going, Santosh?
Excellent, and thank you for the introduction. Jerry. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you've been at Zoom Info, you've been at Apollo, you were at RB2B. I mean, is there a data company, B2B data company you haven't worked at?
Not many. So there are about 10 or 15 more data companies that I've held in as advisory or consultant or in other ways than working with them full time. So pretty much I've covered the entire gamut of companies. Let me share something. 20 years ago, I realized that the only way I'll get mastery in a subject or in a vertical is if I stay in that same space for like 10 to 20 years. But I'm not the kind of person that would work in the same company for 20 years. That's not me. So what I did is I switched jobs and I took as many opportunities that could come my way, but I stayed in the same space. Data, go-to-market, roughly this. So at this point, I know a lot about one space. I can even tell you how different companies would behave to the same market opportunity because I know their teams, their trajectories, their weaknesses, their strength, and I love it because it really helps me when I'm operating a business to have that perspective.
Yeah, totally. I mean, now you're the CEO of, is it Zeeb.ai? Is how you pronounce it?
That's right.
Zeeb.ai. And what's interesting is that you're talking about something called a buyer-led go-to-market platform as opposed to a seller-led go-to-market platform, which, I mean, everyone's seller-led as much as I can tell. So what exactly does that mean? Can you give us a little more detail on that?
Gartner has been talking about this buyer-led for the last 10 years or so. And during that time, I saw that buyers have been kind of not showing up. No shows have increased. They don't want to talk to sales rep until 80% of their buyer journey is done. And then they've already decided on one or two reps. And when they show up on sales call, it turns into a fulfillment call. And they know more about the product than the sales rep. So with all these trends, I would have imagined somebody would have built a buyer CRM or a tool that buyers could use to run their 80% of their buyer journey, right? Turns out there is no such tool.
Really?
Yeah, there's no tool that can organize an individual buyer's journey. So they go on website, they go on G2, they collect data from different places, put it on a notepad and share amongst themselves and then decide which two vendors to talk to. So we are building one of the first tool that will help the buyer, but we are also building agentic tool that can do a lot of the job that the buyers were doing themselves to evaluate vendors using agents.
Interesting.
And then we are also building tools for vendors because think about buyer's journey. Vendors don't get to participate until 80%. So we are building tools for vendors so they can participate earlier in the process in a non-intrusive manner without sending millions of emails, right?
Yeah, totally.
And I can talk more about how we are enabling, unlocking all that value. But I'm thinking, or at least my thesis is, in the next several years, we'll see a shift from all seller-led to some buyer-led and increasingly more and more buyer-led revenue as a dominant strategy that vendors will deploy.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of the stuff you guys, you were doing at Airbnb with Adam, and a lot of what we're seeing just, as our normal working here at Decision Counsel, to your point about, buyers showing up, they've already done 80% of the work. They already have a short list. Literally, they get on the demo, and to your point, they're like no more than the salesperson does, or the BDR or the SDR on what's going on. And what do you think the tipping point was? Because this is a relatively new phenomenon. I know, the whole thing about, what was it, like predictable growth is sort of dead now,
Right.
or predictable revenue, sorry,
Yeah.
is dead because like people just don't do that anymore. But so what's the tipping point? What was it that shifted it?
Yeah, that's a great question, by the way, because it's so counterintuitive and a paradox in itself, right? So here's the answer. Any playbook that is great in go to market and it works, if it becomes commonplace where everybody uses the same playbook, it's no longer great. It no longer works, right? So now let's apply that to the data and go to market space. So 15, 20 years ago, some startup raised say $50 million, and then using data from ZoomInfo and DNB and a few other vendor Avention, and so let's say some companies figured out that there was a funding trigger, and then they managed to send an email that's very contextual. The CEO is thinking about how to spend that 50 million, and they get an email from four vendors saying, hey, here's what we do, and we can help you with the growth that you're about to face. And that turned out to be a very successful playbook. Today, this week, somebody raises $50 million, they get 200 such emails.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the cost of data has gone down from $250,000 that DNB used to charge, or tens of thousands that ZoomInfo used to charge, to $50. You can send those emails at less than $50 a month. So then why won't you? And then everybody's thinking it's just me. Turns out the same funding event, the same CEO, there are thousands of people sending email the same day, right? So it no longer works.
Yeah, I've
So
gotten
that's
some of
the
those
paradox.
emails too. They're annoying.
Right. So that's what's happened to sales led, is we have all gotten so efficient, and the automation has, everybody's got access to automation. It's become so accessible. So in a way, our productivity has ruined the market for us.
Interesting. So you're just like, the success of it is what makes it now the standard or the commodity, so to speak, and there's really no arbitrage anymore. Like there's no way to differentiate. And it's so interesting you say that, because there's a guy I follow named Jason Cohen. I mean, he's the founder of WP Engine, and he has an idea called the elephant curve, which I'm a big fan of. I love his data stuff, and it's the same kind of thing. Like, all marketing initiatives peter out and then decline, and you just need to figure out how to stack these elephant curves so that you can literally like hit the next wave. It's so interesting. So people are just, the old playbooks don't work. They keep on doing the old playbooks. We've got commoditized leads, so it's essentially free to send an email, which is true. And people are just ignoring it, and they're doing their own thing. And this new thing, I'm curious, like, why are buyers? Is it saturation, or is it they're just like, there's so much information out there that they actually don't need your first part of the funnel? They can, all that stuff is ubiquitous now. Like, why have buyers changed their behavior?
Right.
I'm curious.
Let's talk about the buyers. As part of Zier, I spoke to about 150 buyers since January. So I'm kind of very familiar with how they're thinking.
Right.
So over time, what AI has done, especially in the last 12 to 18 months, is cost of building a tool has gone down.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So now what's happening is every vendor or every category that used to have 35 vendors, 50 vendors, now has 500 vendors. So a typical buyer, they're not getting paid to select vendors. So think about the sudden increase in search cost. Earlier they had to evaluate and search from 50 vendors. Now they have to evaluate from 500. They simply cannot do it, right? So the traditional way, the sellers were reaching out and holding their hands, and it still worked more or less, because these buyers were first-time buyers, because SaaS was early, right? And now every buyer is a third, fourth, fifth time buyer, so they're experienced, right? So the only market are not net new business; they're all competitive displacements, right? So the buyers are facing this problem of search cost. They need answers to only their questions. They need like specific, they have business problems, they have priorities, they have high weights. So sellers are not interested in answering buyer's question. Sellers make a pitch of their solution, and they say, look, we are the best because we have these we are on the grid for Gartner, and we are this, we are that. Buyers don't care. There are 500 more of those out there, right? They
Right.
just need their 10 questions so they can categorize. Now sellers are not interested in so there is this asymmetry in relationship, and buyers are realizing bringing in sellers in early stages is a waste of my time because I cannot bring in 500 sellers,
Right.
maybe five, but how do we arrive at those five? So then I have to do this preliminary kind of research on my own. And this is why you see that last 10 years, companies like G2 and review sites, their valuation shot up.
Right.
Because that's where buyers were doing research.
Right. Wow. Okay. But now, like I think you posted about
Right.
Gartner's stock hitting the toilet.
Yeah,
I think
totally.
maybe even about Monday.com.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm confounding it. So
No, it was Gartner. Gartner stock went down like 80% in the last since January. So the reason is now that's kind of multiple trends are converging. This is a new world. So G2's traffic fell 40% since January, right? So the reason is Google SEO is turning into AI answers. So people are not clicking on all those, right? That is ruining Monday.com and G2 and other businesses that were dependent on Google traffic. Now, LLMs are killing Gartners.
wow.
Because why would you want to pay $15,000 to get answers in a month, several weeks, when you can get those same answers immediately or at least some answer, if not the same? There are other values that Gartner provides that cannot be replaced by LLM, but a lot of it is knowledge is getting democratized.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't
You
think
don't
of
need
it that way.
gatekeepers for knowledge anymore. Gartner
Right.
was a gatekeeper for knowledge.
Right. Not anymore. Yeah, I mean, I know like some of the trends we're seeing because we're a go-to-market B2B, go-to-market company. A lot of the times people would be like, "Oh, let's create a PDF and put it behind an email paywall, an email
Right.
wall." I'm like, that doesn't work. Like nobody cares about that anymore.
Right.
They're just ask an LLM and they'll get the answer somewhere else. And so we're really trying to figure out like how content is going to morph into, I think, and I love your opinion on this. I think quality content will always be good, right? I think you just
Right.
have to really think about it. But also like, how do you write for an LLM? How do you
So-
really, get that into the system? Because I mean, to be honest, I don't remember the last time I did a search. I don't use LLMs.
Right. So the world is changing so fast. You
Right.
mentioned this earlier, Cherry. So we went from, and let's talk from the context of content, right? So 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when we wrote content, we wrote it for SEO. We injected keywords and we made the content broad enough so it served multiple personas rather than be very niche. And niche content did well in the long tail, but they were not really dominant. And so, but the way we are going now is if your content is not read by LLM, then does it even exist? Search engines don't matter anymore, right? And LLMs don't care about broad content or lots of keywords because they're going to change the keywords, replace it with the. So they care about, and this is the key everybody has to think about. Differentiation is the new king, right? So everybody needs to think about how are we different than our competitor in my own category, and almost turn that content into FAQ, or what kind of questions are people going to ask LLM and how am I going to answer that? And the answer always has to focus on differentiation. Not is the opposite of the mindset we used to write content for search engine, where let's not focus on differentiation. Let's say we do this, we do that, we do everything. So when people run for keywords, we pop up even if we are not the best fit, right? LLMs are like the enemy of sameness, right? So LLMs punish things that look same. They reward things that look different.
Interesting.
So they are, when you ask a question and there's a content that makes a company look different, that's what LLMs hone up to. So it's really important to write FAQ type documents if possible, where you have to think about the questions to make it easy, digestible for LLM. And then I think there are tools that are being built, agencies, and this will get more formalized in coming quarters.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's this guy I followed. Gosh, I don't remember his name, and I think he's former HubSpot guy. I don't think he's there anymore, and he's been writing some great stuff on Substack. And I remember him wrote this. He wrote this great post. He's like, "This is how you write a piece of content for an LLM to read." And I just remember, and here he's like, "Here's the prompt," and I'm like, "Oh wow!" Like, and so I went through it, and I'm like, "This is very different than the way I would normally write it." And I think the other thing about length too, that was the other thing that, the old wives' tales, like, "Oh, no one's going to read a piece that's 800. It's got to be 800 to 1,000 words." And I'm kind of like, it could be 5,000 words as long as it's good.
Right.
Thing can read it in a nanosecond. I mean, not a nanosecond, right? Well, less than a second, right? So so now we've got all this context. We've got things changing rapidly. I mean, I can't even, every week it seems something's different.
Right.
And so now you've started Zeer, and you're trying to like switch the narrative on this, and you're trying to be more like buyer-led sales as opposed to seller-led sales.
Right.
So what are you doing, as much as you can tell us, at Zeer, to like, how are you thinking about building this thing? Because I have seen some of it where it's like, you're truly an AI first type of company. You're not like bolting anything on. Like, you're like bare metal starting from scratch. Like, what does that even mean?
Right. No, this is great. That's a great question, and it'll help a lot of people because the days are gone when you could build an endpoint solution. So I'm building a company that will last next several years. Endpoint solutions are useless to build today because the CAC is going to go off the roof, right? So remember what I mentioned, like 50 vendor in a category went to 500. Next 5 years, they'll become 5,000, right? Because building a tool using Lovable is going to be so easy. So then what will you do to customer acquisition cost?
Right.
So that'll go off the roof. So the only way I think companies will manage that CAC is by becoming a platform where whatever customers you have, you just sell them more, expand into market adjacencies, right? So we are building a compound startup as well. So we are not selling one thing, we'll end up selling 5, 10 different things to buyers and sellers, right? And I think every company needs to think about platforms. That's just the nature of entrepreneurship. So to break it down further, building a compound startup as a small company could take us forever because it could take us 2 years to build. And by that time, we'll run out of energy and investments and so on. So we sliced it into smaller modules that we can monetize. So our first module is like a chatbot that goes on your website. There are a lot of chatbots out there, like AISDR type chatbots, probably hundreds of them, right? So we're trying not to compete with any of them because they're all programmed to drive the visitor into a meeting, right? And we are saying, our chatbot says no meeting, right? There's no sales step at the other end. We're just going to help you walk through the buyer's journey or accelerate through that journey faster. And then if you're interested, you could talk to us, but that's an inbound. So we try to help them. We are building these buyer apps. So then it helps them with all kinds of journey information that they need, compare, ROI calculator, assessment tools, problem framing. So all of that is built into this chatbot. So that's our first solution. We're already testing it out with about 30, 40 accounts.
Oh, great.
So that's where we are. But fast forward, if I forward you to like say 12 months into where we want to be, I think top of the funnel is where most of the wastage lies for modern go-to-market, where we send 10,000 emails, only 10 are in market to buy, right? We do all these meetings, only like 5% are useful.
Right.
My vision is I would like agents, buyer agents and seller agent, because buyers have pain as well in buying. They have to deal with 500 vendors, right? So I want buyer agent and sales agent to talk to each other all day long and screen each other. And then when there's a match, schedule a call with the two humans. And that, I think, when seller is doing 5 calls and all 5 are good and they'll close, that's such a good way to live than do 40 calls and only 5 closes, right?
Right.
So that's that. We are building that. And then the other part of the buyer-led platform that we are building, apart from agent-to-agent communication, is we are getting buyers or sellers to come to our platform and share their problems. So we are building and collecting data, which is content and playbooks and solutions to common business problems. So when buyers come and say, oh, I'm having churn today, or next day they say, I want to hire a controller, how do I go about, right? And we are building this brain, B2B brain, that will solve problems. And in the process of solving, they will also make introductions, bring in vendors through this buyer journey, where we go from problem to talking to vendors to closing a deal, or closing an agency type deal, or hiring a consultant to solve the problem, all in the same platform. But I think that is kind of the new go-to-market or the future of buyer-led agentic go-to-market. Now it's going to take us 12 months to build, but that's where we are headed.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's yeah, I agree with you that a lot of the inefficiencies at the top of the funnel. It's just so much noise and so much thrash, and you end up like shooting in the dark. I mean, you can, with tools like RB2B and others and ZoomInfo, like you can get a little bit better, but you still don't know. We have the problem with only 5% of the people are in market. I mean, whatever number, it's a number less than 10%. So you're like shouting out into the void, and you're like, hopefully you're top of mind. And I know a lot of times, like at least some of the founder-led growth stuff that Adam's doing on LinkedIn, I think you're doing a little bit of that as well. And what Pep Laya talks about over at Winter about brand awareness, top of mind is important. But I mean, I think what's interesting is you're building the thing that sort of like reduces the thrash and is literally something that, as a buyer of something, I can kind of get my, not feet wet's not the right word. I've got someone that's looking out for me to figure out when I'm ready, and then what is out there. So I don't have to, like, the top of, and I think in this model, the top of funnel is more agent to agent, just as like goes and does its thing. And then you get a signal that says, hey man, are you ready? Oh yeah, okay, look, these are the 3 we recommend, or
exactly.
Wow.
You got it. So
that is totally
if you're
different.
a buyer, you raise your hand, you engage with a platform, get solutions, right? And when you're ready to buy, you spin up an agent. The agent goes and talks to 500 vendors and gets you solutions and tells you, here are 2 humans that I have scheduled a call with.
Wow.
Right? So as a buyer, it optimizes the buyer's time.
Yeah.
But it also optimizes the sellers, because those 2 sellers are very grateful. Those are serious conversations.
And I think what I think this also does, and to your point about like, look, products democratized for sure. Like, come on, like it's. I mean, I'm literally building something unlovable. And I used to be an engineer, so I know what I'm doing. But I mean, come on, it's that easy, right? It's not crazy. But I think this gets to the point of, as a company, you have to add, and it goes back to, I think, the fundamentals, like what's the value I add? What are the problems I solve? What opportunities do I unlock? And I think to your point, once you do that really well, if product is democratized, then you can continue to sell more products to help your customers that you already have be more successful. And I mean, that's the goal, right? That's, other than word of mouth marketing, like that's gold. Like that's what you want to do. So interesting. So you're seeing like more endpoint solutions are going to be dead. You need to solve problems. You need to then solve more of your customers' problems over time. And you need to build a platform that'll do that.
Yeah, if I can expand on that a little bit further. So endpoint solutions are dead. One size fit all solutions are also dead.
Oh yeah, good point.
Right. So there was a time when you built Salesforce and everybody bought, whether you are a law firm or an e-com. But now the future is where it's so easy to copy Salesforce in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So then there will be a Salesforce for lawnmowers or plumbers. Like everybody will have their own version for like $50, $25 a month. Why would you use?
Look at Odo. Odo's that way right now.
Right. So we are
Love it.
entering into this space where the real opportunity is going to be hyper niche.
Hyper niche.
So if you're starting something, it's better to build niche. I think this also changes the VC model, right? Because VCs thought they would pump in capital and one or two or three will have winner take all situation. But winner take all was because these companies could somehow command premium pricing. And then everybody else fought for the scraps. Like 50 other companies fought for the 20% that were leftovers from these two market leaders or three market. We saw that in CRM. We saw that pretty much in everything. Even in data, right?
I mean, everything goes that way, I think, is the thing, especially when it comes to category design and, the whole category kings always, they get 80% of it and everyone fights for the 20% of scraps. But I think all markets work that way once it becomes commodity and everything gets arbitraged out when technology actually does catch up, to your point.
Right. And I think some of that will start to get disrupted. In the coming 2 years, I feel like those, it was very hard to break, say, Salesforce or HubSpot or ZoomInfo or some of these bigger companies. It'll get easier and easier now because because of the way the buyers are changing, the products are going to look the same. It was so difficult to have a product like them, but now everybody will have a product like them. So,
your vertical lawnmower CRM. I love it. So if you're a GTM leader, you're a CEO, you're running a company now. What's the next decision you need to make on this sort of stuff in the next 12 months? What do we do? And again, it's rapidly changing. So this may change. We'll publish this and you're like, Santosh was wrong, man. That just changed. But you're thinking now, what's some of the next decisions people need to make?
Say 2000, the CEOs, if they were engineers, that really helped because a lot of the tech was the basis for success.
Yes.
2015, let's say, if you were sales or go-to-market focus, it really helped because tech was no longer the real disruptor, but go-to-market was. If you were good at selling and scaling and but today, I think I've been an engineer and in go-to-market. I think product marketing is a real differentiator now moving forward. So to your question on what I should be thinking about, because there's going to be everything I build will be copied.
Yes.
So there's going to be hundreds of copies of no matter what I build. And if I'm successful, then all the more it'll get copied. So when Adam and I launched our B2B, within 8 months, there were 20 replicates.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and the reason it didn't scale as much is because everybody's making 3, 4, 5 million, 20 companies doing the same thing. Right. So that's just the nature. We can't stop it from. So product marketing and really understanding and choosing a very thin slice rather than building something for everyone. But also building not just an AI tool that is easily copyable, but building a community and building a whole workflow and a platform and compound startup, which are often more difficult to copy, right? So that is where the moat and barrier comes. So to your question, what am I thinking about as a CEO of company today? I think about the fit, the product market fit. I think a lot about future. Not just where go-to-market is headed, but also what I'm building, can others build it very easily? And if they can, using OpenAI APIs, then I try not to do it. So can I build a community around it? Or can I build content and community, all that to kind of bolster what I'm... So there's a lot more than just building an endpoint solution and pushing it to market.
Interesting. Yeah, I think of it as how do you get integrated in the workflow is one, because we see that a lot. I'm also thinking of this thing as outcome as a service, which is I'm sure people have talked about, but more and more when you look at I really care about the outcomes and the problems that someone's solving with me. The more you can solve for me, the more money I'm going to give you. But to your point about product marketing, I mean, that's fascinating because personally, that's sort of what my secret power is, from having the engineering background and now the marketing background. And SaaS over the last 20 years, especially the predictive revenue, has cratered product marketing. I mean,
right, totally.
We got lazy because you could, we'll just do an agile sprint or a scrum or whatever, and you're like,
right,
let's just put garbage out there, right? As you know,
right.
So that's super interesting. So what's the next decision that you need to make? I mean, you've talked about some of our other what we have to think about, but what's the next decision that you need to make?
So there is many things I can build leading to my platform. I'm trying to build. So one decision I need to make is, what do I build next? Some of the framework is, what I build still has to be valuable. It's standalone. And something that cannot be copied very easily, something that goes with my content, and so it's easy for me to promote. So that's one of the things I need to do. And we have some alpha users using it. I need to maybe get some more, maybe another 50, 100 users that will lead to customers using this tool.
Excellent. Okay. Santosh, it has been enlightening. Thank you so much for being on the show. If anyone wants to figure out what Santosh is all about, you can go to Zeeb.ai. You can also, and you should absolutely follow him on LinkedIn. His stuff is great. I know, I don't know if you learned all that stuff from Adam or not, but it was always fun having you and Adam when you were at RB2B, debating and all that. It was super cool. So Santosh, thanks so much. Appreciate your time, and good luck. Keep us posted on what's going on.
Thanks, Jerry. I love this conversation. Thank you for scheduling.